Hello students, welcome to one more session. Students, in this session, we are going to learn one more interesting topic, that is nitrogen fixation. As you know, from few classes onwards, we have been learning the uses of microorganisms. Among those, major important uses we have seen, but one more importance of microorganisms in our day-to-day life we are going to discuss in this session. So let us see the nitrogen fixation. It's one of the important life process of microbes. Do you know that? If you see the nitrogen fixation, how can you define the nitrogen fixation? Is there any definition for nitrogen fixation? I have a beautiful definition for the nitrogen fixation. What do you mean by nitrogen fixation? The process of conversion of gaseous form of nitrogen into crystal form of nitrogen is called as nitrogen fixation. Do you know there is 79% of atmospheric nitrogen is available in the nature, which means gaseous form of nitrogen is available in the nature. So among this 78% of nitrogen, this 78% of atomic nitrogen could not be useful for the plants. Plants required the dissolved nitrogen. How this dissolved nitrogen is available for a plant? If you see in the diagram, the first step in the process of nitrogen fixation is nitrogen fixation. How this atomic state of nitrogen could be converted into the crystalline form of nitrogen, that is urea, ammonia and nitrates, nitrites, etc. So in the diagram you can see the microbes, the red color structure is nothing but microorganism. If you take Nitrosomonas, Rhizobium, nitrogen fixing bacteria, cyanobacterians. So any one of the microorganism that like Nitrosomonas or any kind of microorganism like Rhizobium, which can convert a gaseous form of nitrogen into crystal form of nitrogen. So this particular microbe, Nitrosomonas, reacts with the atomic nitrogen. You can see the atomic nitrogen indicated by N2. So basically N2 is an atomic nitrogen. So here when it reacts with atomic nitrogen, that is gaseous nitrogen, immediately it undergoes for biological changes, some sequence of biological changes, and finally it will be converted into nitrate. You can see the nitrate in the given figure. Finally the nitrates again undergoes for sequence of chemical reactions with the microbes like Nitrosomonas or nitrogen rhizobium bacteria, and finally the nitrate converted into nitrite. Even the nitrite is considered as a solid form of nitrogen. So nitrate, the first step, nitrate, nitrite. So this nitrogen is somewhat little bit useful for the plants. It is a solid form of nitrogen which is required for the plant growth and development. So this nitrite later on undergoes for again sequential biological reactions and finally converting into a pure form of nitrogen which is available in the soil. A pure form of nitrogen. Do you know the urea is one of the important nitrogen resource that contains 70% of the nitrogen in it? Do you know that? So here even this kind of microbes, they are useful for the conversion of nitrites into urea, uric acid, etc. Here I want to say an interesting point. Without these microbes called Nitrosomonas or the Rhizobium bacteria. Do you know the Rhizobium bacteria which lives in the root nodules of the leguminous family crops such as like green grams, red grams, groundnuts, etc., which are considered as the basic forms of leguminous crops. In these leguminous crops, Rhizobium bacteria lives as an host. By living in the root nodules of this plant, it undergoes for sequence of reactions with the gaseous form of nitrogen and converting the gaseous form of nitrogen into crystal form of nitrogen. So microbes playing a key role in the process of nitrogen fixation. Thereafter that, what do you mean by nitrification? The second step, the second step in the process of nitrogen fixation is nitrification. So here the nitrification is nothing but formation of nitrogen, formation of nitrogen from the primary components is called as nitrification. How this nitrification occurs? How this nitrification occurs? If you see this diagram, here you can see ammonification as an example. Ammonification is also one of the process of nitrification. And if you see the process of ammonification, so during the ammonification process, what changes occurs? What are the steps taken? Let us see here. What do you mean by ammonification? Formation of ammonia from the components, nitrogen components is called as ammonification. Okay. During ammonification, you can see here decomposers plays an important role. Decomposers or bacterians. During the process of decomposition, decomposers acts upon this components, nitrogen components, and converting that nitrogen components into a pure form of ammonia, as you can see NH4 plus, which is considered as one of the form of dissolved nitrogen in the soil. So this nitrogen which keeps plants healthy for the regular growth and development. So without this soil bacteria or soil microbes, the process of ammonification is impossible. The process of conversion of nitrates or nitrogen components into ammonia is impossible. Do you know? Here, ammonification is a natural process occurs by the soil bacteria that is present in the soil. So basically, this ammonification occurs by the soil bacteria which are there in the soil, whereas nitrification and nitrogen fixation occurs by the other kind of bacteria which are living in the atmosphere. So here denitrification, suppose take next fourth step is denitrification. What do you mean by denitrification? What is the relation between ammonification and denitrification? The conversion of soil nitrogen into atmospheric nitrogen. The process of conversion of soil nitrogen, whatever there in the soil, that will be converted into atmospheric nitrogen, which means excess amount of nitrogen, take excess amount of nitrogen that is present in the soil, excess amount of nitrogen that is present in the soil will be converted into atmospheric nitrogen during the process of the denitrification. For denitrification also, soil bacteria, whatever there in the soil, which plays an important role. Cyanobacteria, blue-green algae, cyanobacteria and nitrosomonas, and also other kind of bacteria which plays an important role for the process of the denitrification. So what is nitrification? Let us see here. Let us see the picture. So during nitrification, the atmospheric nitrogen, whatever there, slowly it will be converted into the crystalline form of nitrogen. You can see in the figure how this atmospheric nitrogen going to be converted into a pure form of nitrogen components like ammonia, ammonium ions, and nitrites, etc. Do you know the ammonia is considered as one of the basic pure form of nitrogen available in the soil. So here ammonium is formed by the ammonium ions. So chemical formula for the ammonium ions is NH3. So slowly it will be converted into NH4 plus by combining with hydrogen. NH3 will be converted into NH4 plus. So NH4 plus is the pure form of ammonia, that is nothing but pure form of nitrogen. So like this nitrification process occurs. Now let us see the fourth step which is there in the nitrogen fixation, which is an important step. So that's why I'm explaining here. If you see the denitrification, nitrification and denitrification. What is the difference between nitrification and denitrification? Nitrification involves conversion of gaseous nitrogen into crystalline form, whereas denitrification involves conversion of the crystalline nitrogen into gaseous nitrogen, or the uh, the crystalline form of nitrogen whatever available in the soil, that will be evaporated into the atmosphere as an atomic state of nitrogen. Simply we can say like this: the molecular nitrogen is converting into crystalline, the molecular nitrogen is converting into the atomic nitrogen. So the conversion of molecular form of nitrogen into atomic state of nitrogen is called denitrification. So the chemical formula for atomic nitrogen is N2. And molecular nitrogen, we can take molecular nitrogen as a, what are the examples for molecular nitrogen? Like ammonia, NH4 plus, and urea. What is the chemical formula of urea? NH3CO NH3, which are very good examples for the nitrogen rich components in the soil. So in the steps you can see how the nitrification occurs in the first two reactions, whereas in the last reaction you can see, if you see the last reaction, the denitrification by microbes, you can see there how this denitrification process occurs. And do you know that if you see NO3, what is NO3? What is NO3? Nitrogen trioxide, nitrogen dioxide, which are pure form of crystalline form of nitrogen. So this NO3, suppose two molecules of NO3 I am taking, it will be converted into the atomic state of nitrogen by the process of, you can see in the fourth last and final reaction, you can see 2NO3 plus 10 electrons plus 12 H plus gives rise to N2 plus 6 H2O. So N2 plus 6 H2O. What is happening here? If you carefully observe there, here nitrogen trioxide undergoes for certain kind of sequential reactions. So when it undergoes for certain kind of sequential reactions, especially you can see here the deoxidation process, where the nitrogen trioxide is converting into atomic state of nitrogen and water molecules. So by these reactions we can conclude that nitrogen cycle is a continuous process throughout the day or in our day-to-day life. So nitrogen fixation followed by the nitrification. Nitrification is followed by the denitrification. Again, denitrification followed by the ammonification, ammonification followed by nitrification, nitrification followed by nitrogen fixation. Again, cycle will be repeats like this. So it's a continuous cycle. So that's why nitrogen is an important resource for the plant's growth and development. Clear, students? I hope you enjoyed the session. We'll meet in the next class again. Thank you. Have a nice day. So, what we have did, what we have learned? We have learned the process of nitrogen fixation occurs by various microbes, sequential steps, whatever there in the nitrogen fixation we have seen. In the next coming video, we'll meet with one more interesting class, one more interesting topic. Until be safe, thank you, have a nice day.